So, the voice of this next woman, I've actually had her on my YouTube page before. She was talking about learned helplessness, and her playlist was a hit. That was before she was really coming over to YouTube, and now she's on YouTube. And I want you to go ahead and follow her. She knows that I'm using her video, and I asked her if she could make a whole playlist about being child free and some of the conversations surrounding that. She is child free, and obviously, I have talked about the fact that I am a mother, but I still support the child free movement. Some women simply do not want to have kids. And now, we are in a time frame where women can pick and choose to have kids. It's not a set boom, boom, boom. You have to do this by a certain time, you got to do that in order to say you're a successful adult. So I really like this next video that she does. So, like I said, I don't want to post all of her videos. I want you to go over and follow YB Edit because many of her takes are quite compelling. And if you are a child free person, if you want to know more about it, if you're looking for some support, she has that over there.
Having kids is the biggest, purest propaganda that people get fed during their lifetime. And I will die on that hill and nobody will ever convince me otherwise. It is literally propaganda. And I know this for a fact because I want to make it very clear this is not being said with any hate or snark to the commenter. This question is asked in good faith. But the reason that I know childbirth and having kids is propaganda because you would never ask this question to somebody who wanted kids, like those couples that say, oh, we want 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 kids. Nobody ever asks them why. They only ever ask the child-free people why they don't want to have children, which is weird. Why are you asking the person that's not doing? I'm literally not doing anything. And society has questions for me. For me, why I would choose to not do something. I didn't realize it was an opt-out thing. I always thought having kids was an opt-in. I never realized until I got older that it was an opt-out. I was raised completely without this propaganda. Like until I was about 8, I was raised by a single mom until my dad came into my life, and I was never really around babies much. Nobody really asked me about that stuff when I was little, like, oh, so when you have babies, like, I don't know. All of that really hit me later when I got married. And I always just thought it was an opt-in thing. I didn't know that people would literally start harassing me for not having or wanting children. Like, I literally thought most people didn't want children because all that people with children do is complain about their children. Honest, I have never, ever once looked at a woman with children and thought, I want that. I want her life. I want what she has. Never. Whenever I see that, my whole life flashes before my eyes. What makes this even more strange to explain to people is that I am legitimately not a child hater. I do not hate children. I do not think they are snot rockets or crotch goblins or whatever. I think children are the closest thing to universal, undimmed, unbridled light. I literally love them with all of my heart. I was a teacher. I taught preschool for a few years. I taught kindergarten, and then I taught first grade. Every single one of those kids was the absolute joy and light of my life. I adored every single student I've ever had. I have no issue with kids. I love them. I would never want one in my house, though. You know what I mean? Like, I love interacting with, teaching them, learning from them. Learning from them was the actual most important part of the whole thing, like the coolest part of the whole thing. I learned way more than I taught. No problem with kids. I have no problem with people who want to have kids. No problem with people who are parents. Even if I were to have a child with my husband, I just don't think I could ever get over how little his life would change or would have to change versus mine. And not just life, but body, bodily functions. Being pregnant is actually one of the top 10 most horrifying experiences I can imagine. My mom still has dental issues after having me because babies will literally suck the calcium out of your body and your bones. So your dental health may get worse. And that's like the tip. This is like the very tip of the iceberg. That's like side effects that you can and should expect. Like, I've just genuinely always been confused as to why it's an opt out and not an opt in with all the sacrifices that women have to make, sacrifices they don't even know about. I mean, we live in an age where I just looked all this shit up on the internet and was like, hell fucking no, thank you. Anytime I even thought about, am I missing out? Like, is this something I should do? I just go to a subreddit where moms hang out and it reaffirms my decision 100% every single time. It's because we were very young and very naive when we got married. My husband and I definitely planned on having kids someday. In fact, I wanted to be done with having children by the time I was in my mid-20s. I will spare you all the details, but we basically went through several iterations of like, just wait and like, if one of us wants to, then we'll talk about it. My husband has always said that he would never do that with his body, so he would never expect that of me. He would never expect me to do that for him. So unless I really wanted like kids, He was like, I would never feel comfortable coming to you and being like, hey, I want kids. He's like, it has to be a mutual decision, but even more so, it has to be your decision. Because he's like, I would never do that with my body. Like, that's how I know he's a good man. Like, he's so real for that. And like, men who get married and then start giving their wives ultimatums about children or talking about how many children they want really piss me off for that reason. The thing you can do is like hope and pray as a man, because that is a crazy thing to ask a woman to do for you. Men who go into marriage thinking that they're entitled to a woman's baby factory too is insane. It shouldn't even be like a question of why don't you want to have kids? Like, obviously I don't want to have kids. I always thought that part was obvious. But it was super weird when people started asking me. I was like, are you guys joking? You see how it is, right? You see the kids at this family function, right? You're asking me if I want that? It's like, why do I need qualifiers to not have a child? Like, what's my excuse? Like, there's entitlement in that. Again, not speaking to the commenter, but there's entitlement in the fact that people will literally ask you, like, what's your excuse to not have kids? Because the way more polite way to go about it would be ask people who do want kids why they want those kids. That would be a polite, fun, and thoughtful question if anybody actually had a good response to it. They don't. They don't. You ask them why they wanted to have a kid, and their answer will always start with me. I wanted to see what they'd look like. I wanted a mini-me. I wanted a little best friend. I thought that I would be a good parent. I want a family. The answer to why somebody would want to have kids is always selfish. The funny part about parenthood is that it is a completely selfless endeavor. I actually have like absolutely zero beef with people who decide to be parents because I'm like, joke's on you. You think you're going to get a little best friend and a mini-me and you're just birthing like a person. Like, it's a whole ass person that's going to be in your house. Good luck with that. Good luck, trying to force them to be your best friend or your little mini-me or anything like that. Like, I'm sure that's all going to go really smoothly and really well for you. Good luck. So happy for you. So proud, because they're going to learn one way or another. But it's like, I don't need to learn. I know that having kids is really hard. I know even trying to like interact with and find a common language with kids is hard. And you have to work on yourself a lot to be able to actually love and respect kids. You have to do a lot of self-work to even be able to relate to a kid properly. And most people don't. And they make it harder on themselves. Knowing what I know about America, knowing what I know about health insurance here, knowing what I know about disability here, knowing what I know about social safety net here, I would never have a child. No, absolutely not. That's crazy. I'll finish with a story of what really solidified me and my husband being child free. Like, I feel like the moment we really connected on the idea of like, definitely isn't for us, all of our friends started having kids. And of course, you're asking them like, what's it like? Is it worth it? And one of our friends, bless his heart for being very honest, said, best advice I can give you is that if you like your life right now, then you're definitely not going to like having a kid around. He's like, my wife and I, we've been waiting to do this for a long time. It's not that we didn't, like our life before, but it's that while we enjoyed, our time without a kid and like everything like that, we have been like looking forward to this next step for a long time. We didn't really like our life without kids. So for us, it's really great because we always knew that this was coming. We always knew this was the next step. In that moment when he said that, when he was like, if you like your life now, then you're definitely not going to like having a kid, we looked at each other and we knew right then and there. We are definitely not cut out for having children and probably go the rest of our life without, because we love our life. Like, I love my life. Everyone's always like, but this is exactly why you guys should have kids. You know exactly how hard it is. So you'd be really good parents. And to what end? To what end? Because at the same time, a bunch of people are going to have kids without fucking thinking. Well, why would I invest so much of like my time, effort, and everything like that into a child who's just gonna have to go out there and interact with a bunch of idiot children? Like, that just sounds like I'm sentencing all of us to a really bad time. I'm not buying into the idiocracy propaganda either. The idiot children can inherit the world. That's not my problem. I don't even want to be here. I'm waiting for the apocalypse to come and take me at this point. I used to worry about surviving an apocalypse or whatever, like watching The Walking Dead, and now I know for a fact I would just roll over and die, like immediately. I don't want to deal with any of that shit. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to bring a child into this world and put a bunch of effort into raising them to be a good human, and then they just have to go work for Jeff Bezos anyway. It seems like a really bad use of my time. I'd much rather do what I'm doing now, which is living in peace, minding my own business, enjoying my own life to the fullest, and hanging out with my best friend and my other friends. This is just not a good time or place or anything to have kids. So yeah, if you don't want kids, like if you genuinely don't have that desire, if you're not like envious of people with families, like trust your gut. Trust your gut. I don't have any regrets. I never look at my life and think, you know what? I really wish a baby was here or a child was here. I literally don't. Never, that thought has never crossed my mind in my entire life. Like, you know what would make this better? A baby. Never had that thought in my life. So trust your gut and do not let them propagandize you, ladies. Stay strong out there. I love you. Godspeed.
Now, watch this next video. This is where she's talking about when she is getting these uncomfortable questions, like people prying into her business and why she doesn't want to have kids. It is none of your business why people are not having babies. You don't know if they're not having babies because they can't have babies or simply because they don't want to have babies, because there was something traumatic that happened. It's none of your business. But I like the way she handles these questions. So go ahead and watch this video as well. Let me know what you think. I'm not coming in on the back end because she handles this beautifully. So just let me know what you think in the comments. Go ahead and follow her. You won't hear my voice again. So like, comment, and share. Go ahead and follow me if you're not yet subscribed, but totally go ahead and follow her over on her YouTube channel.
I have a couple go-to answers whenever people ask why I don't have children yet or when am I going to have children. My favorite one, and I've been using this for years, I go like this. I say, honestly, I would have a ton of children on the one condition that I got to be the dad. If I got to be the dad, we'd have 12 children by now. I love them all to death. Now, this isn't necessarily true, because like even if I was a dad, I would do a lot. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be like a lazy ass, and I don't really want that either. But what I like about that answer is that it really, first of all, it leaves people quite speechless. Like, you can't really say that to someone and they keep arguing with you about why you should have kids as a woman, because it really draws attention to how insanely big of an ask having kids is when you're the woman. Not that big of an ask when you're a man. It's not that big of a debate. It's kind of like, well, sure, worst thing happens, I can always run out on this kid and just pay child support. Nobody's gonna really judge me, and I can make up whatever story I want about my ex, and most people will believe me, and I can probably find a younger woman to date, like all of that. So I like that answer because it gets people's wheels turning. You know what I mean? Like, I always tell them, like, if I wasn't the one that had to get pregnant, give birth, tear from V to A, whatever, all that stuff, I would have a million children, I tell them. And most people really have no good response to that whatsoever. Really, it really leaves no room to keep trying to convince you. Usually just kind of awkwardly like peter out of the conversation, which is great. That's really the most reliable one that I have found. Other than that, I'll just be honest. I'll be like, I don't want them. I never have. That's never changed. And another pretty effective one is, I don't want children, and I don't believe that people who don't want children should have children. What are they going to argue with? Now, if this is someone you don't mind ruffling a few feathers with, or if this is someone that's really been like up your ass about it and like they won't stop asking, you can start throwing out some more spicy ones. I don't believe there's a reason to have children that isn't selfish, and I'm not a fundamentally selfish person, so I'm not gonna have children. You could say that. And honestly, like, if you really want like to put an end to it and you're just like, the question is not being asked in good faith, like, somebody's very much just trying to like crab in a bucket you into having kids, and they say like, so like, why aren't you guys having kids? Literally just be like, what an extremely inappropriate question. I told you I'm not having kids, and it's really none of your business why. Why would you think that this is an okay question to ask? I'm genuinely wondering. Some women are not just child free, they are childless. Like, a lot of women want kids and just haven't been able to conceive, and so they'll say something like, we're not going to have kids, and people are like, oh, why not, why not? What an inappropriate question to ask. Why is my reproductive system any of your business at all? Are you going around asking men this? Like, do you want me to ask why you had your kids and then give you my input on what I think of your answers? I don't think so. I bet you couldn't give me a reason why you had your kids. I bet you couldn't give me one selfless reason as to why you had kids. Oh, another good one is, I'm too selfish. I'm too selfish, because it's kind of like anticipating their response. That way they can't use it against you. You can just say like, oh, I'm too selfish. I like my money. I like my free time. I like designer things. I like to travel. I like living in my fancy luxury apartment. I don't want to live in the suburbs and work a 9 to 5, that's for sure. It's like a little subtle knock on their lifestyle, which is exactly what they were going to do to you, I promise. Okay, if the question is not being asked in good faith, they're definitely just going to like sit there and shit on all of your reasons or answers or whatever. So the best way to prevent that is to get out ahead of it. All right, I hope this helps. Let me know if you want more. Godspeed. Mwah.